What are you looking for, Marr?
Well, I'm looking for a circle due south, and I'm looking for a circle due north. And that will bisect the dingo fence going along here, which is going east-west. These circles from the air are a little micro vegetation thing which stand out very strongly in the desert. In each one of these things, apparently that's where the animals rest, the dingoes rest. From those, like in that one down there, we'll find a whole little microenvironment. There'll be bones in there. Perhaps one further down, we found ancient old bottles. Apparently, it's a camp for man as well as for these animals. Now, what these remind me of, really, they stand out very, very strongly on this enormous flat plain. What we'll be doing once we establish these as a base, as an X, then we'll come in on a micro thing. We'll come into things like these extraordinary drowned out, what's called cane grass. These things are very strong burrs and things like ants and all sorts of little animals will live in here. And this is almost like a fossil out here, like the fossilized animals that live along here, which have been drowned when the flood was here. And that whole fence being a symbol of stopping animals. And then here in a micro thing, that fence has nothing to do with it. But it's a very strong thing in itself. In this very flat plain here, just very simple gestures of turning a piece of soil upside down. If you did a series of that, it's a very strong indication that man came in here, or some sort of animal or something unnatural came in here to do this. So what we'll do when the kids come out, we'll be working just in an area that's looking at this very critically, right around here, and then we'll see another zone. Then we're always related back to the dingo fence. And that dingo fence, it's in effect goes, well, 5,000 miles. Extraordinary. You know, it's the longest fence in the world. For some reason, its man is here to stop the dingo. This dingo, it's very controversial whether this dingo should be stopped at all. And the fence doesn't really stop it anyway. It's sort of a ready-made piece of art that could be interpreted in a way. But it's a very strong demarcation between nature, man, sun. Very pristine, very elegant. And here we are really as, well, filmmakers, artists, working with this whole thing. And it's almost like a bare canvas.
I was in awe of it, I think. Fascinated by it, but I felt very unsophisticated because I didn't know anything about it. That was the first time I'd sort of been further west than Penrith. That was, I felt very presumptuous even trying to start understand it. And I think that was reflected in what I did. The fact that I went up there for a couple of weeks and everything was very exciting. The trip was very exciting. Arriving was very exciting. What Marr had done so far with the sail, you know, I thought that was exciting. And so I was high on enthusiasm and low on knowledge and understanding. I mean, we've probably come up with here the attitude that basically the dingo fence is bad, that interfering with the environment is bad in such a way.
If you sort of, you can say it's interfering with the environment, all right, you know, sheep are introduced species and all the rest of it, but if you run onto a camp where a dingo's ripped up 500 or 600 sheep, you're not going to disapprove of the dingo fence because, yeah.
Sure, that's an understandable attitude, but that's part of the real interest in coming up here. We came up here with city attitudes, and we find people who've got just equally valid reasons for disliking the dingo, the same way that we think it, you know, we think what you're doing is bad. or not necessarily bad on a personal level, but over a period of time, it's probably a mistake to build a dingo fence.
We'll be using the camera a lot for the macro view, looking at the vastness of Australia, down to how big the dingo fence is, which just gets smaller, down into with the bellows. We'll be looking very closely at, say, the cane grass roots. So that's sort of a play of macro and micro. Two energy sources which are very important universally and particularly out here is the sun, which is forever present, and the other one, the wind, which we feel all the time. Now this is very quickly what I have in mind.
Heads today are made of stone, over. Alright. I think probably most axes are made of steel or some kind of metal today because it's very strong and can stay very sharp. But have a look on page 7. Page 7.
Here is a very simplified man-made structure to do a certain job. It's in Central Australia, right, so the heart of Australia.
People who think you want a soft axe head, over. Alright, a hard axe head, over. Now, if you were just wandering around a field, or if you just lived out in the bush and you didn't have shops and you didn't have metal and things, what's about the hardest kind of material?
I think it was fascinating that I find a dingo a very romantic sort of character, and that's entirely different to the conception they have of it up there. For instance, that woman who talked to me about seeing a dingo ripping the insides out of sheep or whatever, because she'd gone through that experience, image of a dingo as a sort of a scavenging cur of a dog was entirely different to mine as a sort of romantic. My conception, I think, is largely coloured by the experience I have, or the second-hand experience of the American West. I mean, I think the dingo is a sort of
and here is
American,
one, the essence of, say, man,
Wild West character.
one fence,
And
with
the fact
just
that it's in
pure
Australia
nature.
is
It's contrasted. One man-made statement and nature all around. I thought that'd be a very good point of departure, especially because I'm interested in social commentary, and in this case, an ecological thing, to confront this whole thing of why stop the dingo. In other words, there's an opportunity in a very simple format to explore a contentious issue through art, environmental art. In other words, this was an environmental ready-made of which these conceptual frameworks we've been talking about was an opportunity to do it in a simplified statement. Because I was concerned, been trying to make this a stronger visual statement in my other stuff, which I thought was too complex. It gets back to this thing of communication. And I wanted to make a stronger visual statement. Therefore, I was looking for simple visual means. One fence, a bare desert.
Only in as much
of which, for us as artists, environmental artists, to make our statements. And therefore, there's that whole thing of a universal thing of working with latitude and longitude, location, which we use, and sort of a macro scale, and then coming down to the micro scale, again using that dingo fence.
And I wasn't necessarily willing to be convinced by the local people that the fence was a good thing. I mean, I could see it was good in terms of the economy of the area because it employed so many people to look after its upkeep and what have you. But I was never convinced that it was a good thing. So I had that negative attitude
in my opinion.
And so that I was happy to parody it. And
when we talk about the environment, we're talking about the physical and social. We could also equally call it ecological art. The difference being, say, environmental and ecological is semi-scientific. It's based on sort of systems. And whether you use that one word, which our work does use as a point of departure, we're involved in that, but it's slightly more pretentious. I think both of them are pretentious. Any adjective in front of art is pretentious, but it is a descriptive thing that helps to explain to people. So it's sort of a dilemma. So it could be ecological art or environmental art. Everyone wants to try to classify. We all classify. Our mind is constantly trying to order and classify things, and this is nothing but an aid to do that. The danger of this is jargon. So it's sort of a compromise thing. Environmental art, ecological art, or we could just say art. Or we could say it's creative problem.
Suburban analogy of people.
There's a whole bunch of things. What word do you use?
Exotics.
So that's a deliberate decision. I occasionally say physical and social environmental art.
Have exotic plants and then putting in
as well.
Gum trees and what have you, which is the current fashion. What I really wanted to do was effect something which was totally arbitrary with the vegetation, in the same way that the fence I thought was a fairly arbitrary kind of barrier. Then I wanted to do something that paralleled that event, but using vegetation. So
I think that essentially what we're all looking for is some sort of universal blueprint for existence. It doesn't matter whether you play football or watch TV or write a book. For me, I find this type of activity particularly stimulating because it's a blend of mental abstraction and physical realities. And quite frankly, I don't think it matters what the vehicle that you journey in or how you actually journey. I think we're all arriving at the same place eventually. And for me, this type of expression I find particularly pertinent because it offers fresh insights into the nature of the world about me, my fellow men, and myself, my own identity. And hopefully other human beings will be able to look at this particular work and perhaps see something in a manner that is fresh and hopefully new.
got to thinking about the site in terms of time. And in the things that I've done, I've tried to make a play between the real time of natural processes and the sort of time that we're involved with in our artworks. At the same time, I think we've got another element here with using film to document the entire work. Film is normally a narrative medium, so the question of interpretation becomes really critical. The things that I've done, I've tried to overlay a structure on the environment, which becomes part of the environment and hopefully will provoke some sort of thought. But I certainly don't envisage any one meaning to be gleaned from whatever I've done. I want it to be capable of interpretation on many different levels, or in fact none at all.
Well, one of the major reasons for coming out here was to see this man-made intervention in this natural environment, i.e. the dingo fence. It seems to me it's an absolutely perfect metaphor for most of the ills that face Western man, such as isolation and fragmentation, and his kind of single-minded determination to find out and obtain things to benefit himself. And it seems to me that what I'm trying to do with my fence is to point out what I think is a perfect dingo fence on the one hand, and to show a representation of the evil of this fence on the other hand.
Now that one of Duke's, he felt that through performance, that is, us as artists acting, our bodies being an extension of the artwork, should once again bring out this issue of this dingo fence being a strong physical barrier, visual, physical, ecological. And so that whole thing of man being to the south, symbolized by Doog and the old FX holder, and with the
regard Doog's performance
a very strong symbol of
echoing
man,
the basic
guardian
schema
fence.
that we created in the sand, if you like, and that Marr explained in terms of man on one side of the fence and flora and fauna on the other. So that basic framework, I think, is fairly central to the whole thing, and fairly important for people to understand on any level, whether they're informed critics or whatever. I mean, I think unless they understand that, then they're going to lose many opportunities for interpretation of other elements of the film. And
as the sun set, when the last feather went in, I lay down and lit man's fire as the natural light went away. That's really what it was about. What did occur to me then, that maybe it was actually a death scene. As the sun set, I lay down. Or lit the fire, then lay down. Maybe I was dying, because I was thinking maybe the light level from the film was just, or from that particular overcast day, that perhaps as well as that change of light was also a death scene. I don't know. Chose this dingo fence because it's a strong man-made structure, which is an extreme contrast to this vast, austere land. We're basically making an X across the dingo fence on the 4 cardinal points. Within spines off that X are little circles, almost Druid-like. That's where each individual will be doing their micro-environmental art. My job is really to try and oversee the whole thing so it reaches totality. An analogy of this could be architecture in each one of the circles versus planning, where I'm looking at the total environment. It's important to remember when we talk about environmental artwork, we're concerned about the social environment as well as the physical environment. Therefore, we're very interested in the reactions of the people, the animals, and the flora, and we try and bring that out in our artwork.
9RP Balgamurdi, 18LP Gunvale, 98 Waterluna, 18LD Portable, 18AH Santa, 8QME Epsilon, 9NZ Tongo, 8CR Wattlevale, 9RP, 9NRP Timber, 9NDX Yantara Lake, 9NKT Watago, 9NKF Turika, 18DQ Wampa, 8OR13, 9NRW Woolaba, 8OX Wampa. Stupidity. We call 8GK Tikalara, 9IP Palgamurdi, 18LP Gunvale, 98 Waterluna, 18LD Portable, 9NZ Tongo, 8CR Wattlevale, 9NRP Coomba.
HCR Wattlevale.
HCR Wattlevale, this time we call 9NDX Yantara Lake, 9NKF Turika, 8NDQ Wampa, 8AR13, 9NRW Willaba, 9NKT Watago, 8OX Wampa. Hello? Patient waiting.
9AA, 9 sugar. And I will keep appointment. Due rain.
9AA Portable. 8CR Wattlevale. Until around 399. Leaving Wednesday, 23rd. 4 p.m. Yes, okay. 9AA, go.
Hi, Sierra Pine. Yes, I have that thing, Serge. Could you put me on the end of the list, please? 97 Adelaide, SA. Will advise later. And I will keep appointment. Due rain. Will advise later.
Unable to keep appointment.
Well, we heard about this in Tibbabar, and there was we had some invitations, and it didn't actually say what it was, and we were sort of going around trying to find out what was going on, and they said you were going to blow the border fence up with dynamite. Wasn't that the story, Margaret?
Yes, that's true, yes. That's what we heard, yes.
Nature sculptors or something, but the more we asked, sort of the least we could find out, and we became so very intrigued with the whole thing. We just sort of couldn't get out quick enough, it's something exciting, and I think we didn't really have any idea what we were going to see actually when we got here, but, walking around talking to the fellows, I think it's really interesting, don't you, Margaret?
I think it's quite interesting, yes, especially the homestead and whatever that gadget is up there about the wind, yes. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful day. Howdy. A lovely day, isn't it? And this is your humpy, is it? Oh, we got the rainwater tank and all running off here, have we? That's very interesting. And I see your windmill fell down, so you don't work, eh? Bad luck about that. And what's this all about?
I don't know. It just seems silly to me. Ridiculous. I don't know. You just explain it and I still don't see any sense in it.
I don't know. That's all pretty good.
Yeah. I thought it was a nice day out. Come up here, something different. Oh, I don't know. I still don't understand it properly. I can't really see any sense in it. I'll say I enjoyed it. I thought it was really stupid, stand out here on a windy day, sleeping out in the cold, and then go and doing something like this. But still, it's better than sitting home baking cakes all day, isn't it? It's an outing. Get a free beer.
And round the back of this humpy here, I've got a little tip too, which is sort of, once again, it's something that's, you want to nick the candles, do you?
Oh, from my experience in it, it's predictable. It's a party. I don't think for those people.
But the tip also,
this is a novel experience.
Located away from the homestead.
There's not many events out there, and then through the thing of them coming to a party on a Sunday afternoon, it's a picnic thing.
So that's like.
Now I am still naive enough to think that for some of those people there, perhaps it will allow them in the future to think about certain sort of issues in a different environment.
Very fantastic. A lot of work in it. I think it's very interesting.
Some of those kids there, this will have some sort of imprint. But I'm saying it's on a very humble scale.
That's very good.
It's a great big painting. Rather than using paint, we're using a bulldog grade wool that you like, right? That's rather than putting paint on it, we put a piece of wool. And it has a color and a sheen. So it's really a great big painting. But we call it sculpture because it's also in relief. We put some things up. Painting's flat, you know? And some of these things pop up. Like we're actually using a dingo fence as part of the sculpture. See, it's like a line on a painting. And this dingo fence is a line, especially if you see it from the air, from back. Driving down the road now, it's a long line. Well, that's what it is, too. So we're just making a great big canvas.
That's why I'd studied it at school. I'd understand it more and I'd appreciate it more.
Yeah, right. I was very impressed with the fence visually. And there was always a temptation to think of it in purely visual terms.
I think it's a pretty exciting sort of thing. I've never seen, you know, it done out here before.
Because of the strength of that line through comparatively blank, barren desert.
Oh, no, the barren's all right. Where you cleared that area and stuck it all in a rubbish dump and left one plain, that's not too bad.
But you're always reminded of its context socially because you'd meet the boundary riders and the people, the owners of the properties, and you'd realise the force of the fence in social terms.
Took one plant and put it back into the like, you know, in the well there, it's a sort of symbolic thing.
Most artists feel that the object on the pedestal in the gallery is totally self-contained. It has nothing to do with the context. I think this gets back to the thing why we call it environmental art. We don't distinguish the object from the content. And I don't think even the more traditional formal artists, if they thought about it, they can do it either. In the sense of the minute you put something in a gallery, that is a very special environment. If that same object is in a local tip, it's unappreciated.
Transferred in our minds to a particular environment because we were treating the desert as an area upon which we were going to create an artwork. By doing that, we put a construct on it which changed our attitude towards the fence, and that's why I was always tempted to think of it visually, because I think in thinking about art, I'm primarily visual, I think. But we were continually brought back to reality by social interaction. So I remember Marr made the comment towards the end of the time there, and he started talking in terms of this bare canvas, and I was quite surprised that he was talking in those sort of visual terms, because I think it's understandable because he was talking to somebody who perhaps only was starting to understand what it was all about, so it was a good analogy. But I don't really think he believes that's what we were doing.
Perhaps industrialisation or representing modern buildings springing up out of nowhere sort of thing.
What I feel very strongly every time I go to the Outback is just sort of how irrelevant art is, in the sense that the problems of the Outback, well, everywhere in society, but in the Outback in particular, it's just a non-event. And the arrogance of the artists going there and posing these types of questions, where there are much more serious things going, is sort of a cultural overlay which is inappropriate for that type of environment. And then that's gestural thing. If we shoot dingoes, why not shoot an artist? It's quite a strong statement that way. An artist is no better or worse than a dingo.